Have we peaked with influencer marketing?
Hello from Detroit, I'm Joel.
I'm Brad.
Today we are addressing the ever so important question, has influencer marketing peaked? Now, this is not the first time that this question has been asked.
True.
I hearken back to VidCon of yore of 2018, where I sat in on several sessions suggesting that we were hitting peak influencer. So we're going to tackle that now that we've got nearly a year under our belt. Were those prognostications at all accurate? What's your take?
Oh, that's interesting. I did not know that piece of information because I was off doing my own thing. But I think
Taking a well-needed vacation, Brad.
Yes. Oh yeah. It was a great vacation. Let me tell you, if you want a vacation, go to VidCon. It's just a fantastic
Peaceful.
place to relax. No. So, anyways, has influencer marketing peaked? I don't see it. I don't see it in any way, shape, or form. I mean, the trends support this $6.5 billion industry. It's growing considerably, but the most
We thought we'd be there in like 3 years.
right.
Like that's what we were saying is like it's
true.
It's gonna keep doubling, but yeah, we thought it was gonna be 3 years away.
Yeah,
We're there now.
To be there now is insane. I mean, there's a very good chance in 2019. I guess it is 2019. In 2020, we will be at least $10 billion as an industry. I don't think that's
amazing.
a stretch saying. But the question is really why. I think influencer now is in the psyche of every major CMO. Like we know we need to do influencer. The problem is understanding how to do influencer right in a way that it's going to be effective. But I think every CMO gets the message that influencer works when done right. And to me, that's a huge mental shift that's been made, and I don't see that changing anytime in the near future.
I'm going to take a horrible digression right now, but I want to share an investing strategy that I've had over the last year for whatever meager funds I've been able to put in the market. I have been identifying companies that are doing influencer marketing well, and then buying those stocks.
Interesting.
Now, it's done well. I get that the entire market has done well, but those stocks that I put in that were doing influencer well have outpaced the S&P, which.
Anecdotal, but still relevant.
But I think it's fascinating. Yeah, no, I think your point's spot on. Look, the big trends: consumer media habits have changed. The way that we incorporate information has changed, and frankly, the customer journey has changed. Now, this isn't the only change. There's a ton of other stuff happening, but I do not see one major mega trend that does not affect influencers. So, consumers demanding that their brands have more of a why. More of a purpose to them. That touches influencer. Consumers demanding that brands be more socially aware and environmentally conscious. That's not a new trend, but now that's at the heart of, I think influencer, that heart of that advocacy. Brands being more of a part of one's identity than I think we've seen at any point in the past. That touches influencer.
Right, and I think people, where they're consuming content, people are moving away from traditional cable. You're consuming more content on where social media platforms makes it easier for influencers. But the flip side of that is ad blockers. More and more people are getting blocked out of being able to put their message out to consumers, except through influencer, where people have given permission for brands to sell to them. So there's a lot of things happening.
This is the fundamental truth of social media, is that what it did better than anything else was create a whole bunch of microcultures.
Right.
So you think of it as you have mass media culture, go back to the 90s, pre-internet. You have a very homogenous national culture, and then your microcultures existed in whatever small groups, small clubs, small
grunge,
the Seattle grunge or the New York punk scene or whatever it would be. But those were very regional, very localized, and frankly very difficult to tap into, right? And with social media, now all of a sudden we don't have a mass media anymore. We have a landscape of micro cultures, and you don't have access to them in the same way that you used to. And even so, this is interesting, and I think the bigger brands and the bigger ad budgets are really confounded of this. I remember going back to the Super Bowl. We talked about the Super Bowl commercials a lot. I think it was Miller. I want to say it was Miller High Life that did an MSR. what is that? Yeah, like the whisper thing, the MSR whisper thing, where they had somebody listening to headphones talking about Miller, right?
Okay.
And it was like I was sitting with a group of people that are like, "What is this?" And I'm like, "Oh no, this is the thing. This is a phenomenon on YouTube where people just whisper to each other and make all sorts of
ASR.
God,
Yes,
thank
I'm with you now.
MSR is Mountain Safety Research. That's who makes my backpacking stuff.
No, I'm with you.
ASR. So, anyways, yeah, thank you.
Shockingly, it's a niche community that I am not a part of, so it took me a minute, but yes,
yeah,
it is a huge niche community. To your point.
So yeah, it is, and so I think that's representative of when you have big brands.
I think it's ASMR. The more I think about it. ASMR. Okay, we got that figured out. We're gonna keep moving on.
Like a heat-seeking missile. We'll get there. So. The point is, you had a microculture that found its way into the most expensive ad spot in history, which was this last year's Super Bowl, and that speaks to me of we do not have a mass culture anymore. We don't have a mass media. We have these microcultures, and because of that, the only way to consistently and reliably tap into those microcultures is through influencers. So there's no way influencer has peaked. It can't peak. Like it doesn't, our culture is changing, and the successful brands are going to be those that are keeping up with the broader cultural themes. Go ahead.
Well, here's what's really interesting is that the companies that tend to spend more on influencer are newer companies. So these are big companies, oftentimes Fortune 500, Fortune 1000 companies, but so many of them were founded in the last 15 years. So they grew up in the digital age. I mean, we talk about humans and the difference between millennials and boomers all the time, but with companies, this is a big difference where you're willing to change based on the digital trends really quickly, and you don't have a model that requires a whole lot of heavy lifting to change it. So, no, we're going to be really nimble as an organization, and these newer companies have changed to be able to hit influencer. And what's great about influencer is you can test so many of those little microcultures that you reference really, really quickly. I mean, no other medium have you been able to test, be able to enter into these communities and test so quickly. And then, wow, you strike gold when you're listening to audiobooks with women's crafting or whatever the case may be. Wow, once you've found that vein, you can really put a lot of dollars into it. And I think that's a really powerful element.
Yeah, and see really, really impressive ROI. So we have the question, what does this mean for the CEO? Or CMO rather? For the CMO, it means there's no mass culture. There are cultures. There's no cultural zeitgeist. There are cultural zeitgeists.
Right.
And I'm butchering that word, and I know that's not what it means, but that's how they have to think of it. Is you don't get to tap into the cultural zeitgeist anymore. You have to do multiple different iterations of it in order for you to be relevant.
Yeah,
I mean that's my biggest takeaway. And your one avenue to do that is going to be influencer on multiple different platforms, because Instagram has a different crowd than Twitch, than YouTube, and there's of course crossover.
Right.
But no, you got to be everywhere, and you got to be doing it well. And your strategy for one's going to look totally different than another. And you've got to be structurally and organizationally geared to do something radically different on Twitch than you're going to do on influencer. So now it's not even enough to have an influencer department.
Right.
You've got to have platform specialization within your marketing department to be able to do this well.
Yeah, the testing and learning and to be able to move nimbly is equally as important of knowing that you need to do influencer and to be able to tap into it. So the nimbleness is huge if you want to be successful in influencer. And frankly, it does take a lot of time and education to be always on the cutting edge, but it's so important if you really want to be successful in influencer.
Yeah, and our last thought, though, this is what's great about it, is that age-old question of everyone knows that half their ad budget works and half doesn't work, but they don't know which half. I think that those days are going to be over before too long. I think you can build the right models to track the right things, and you can make your ad budget much more effective, even if it is meaning a much more inherently complicated marketing team. Your ad budget's going to be more effective as a result. So, all right. Thanks for tuning in. Those are our thoughts. We'll see you next time. So long from Detroit.